Greetings everyone, boys and girls on the internet. Victor here, back again with another Call of Duty Advanced Warfare video. Here to give you a breakdown in today's episode of the Create a Class system. This is a feature which every Call of Duty player, self-respecting Call of Duty player in particular, should know. Because you can't play the game without knowing the features and subsets of the Create a Class category. So when you're going to create a class, you'll see that you have multiple just go through a few more of my slots. So you'll see that you have multiple options to customize your class or your loadouts to your liking. You can even have custom classes made for specific game modes. Like for example, if you're playing a lot of hardpoint or if you're playing a lot of domination, you'll tend to have classes with higher move speeds, which means that you will need more mobility. So for example, submachine guns have the most mobility or the best mobility in the game because they give you the ability to move at almost full speed, around 95 to 100% move speed. And some weapon variants will give you a boost or will give you minus stats in exchange to increase in other stats. Like for example, this KF5 elite variant called the Spanner, which I unlocked by supply drops. I'll get to that a bit later, supply drops. So I unlocked the Spanner in the supply drop, and it gives me +3 range in exchange for -2 to fire rate and -1 to handling. So for those of you that don't know, the KF5 submachine gun is unique in that this weapon has properties for the first 5 rounds in every magazine to have increased damage. So what this means is, most of the time, now let's go to the armory and show you guys how it works here. Most of the time when you're firing this weapon, after the first 5 shots you'll tend to reload and then fire again, and reload and then fire again, because you want to maintain the increased damage from every 5 shot burst that you have. Otherwise you can just still normally fire the weapon, but it won't deal as much damage as the first 5 rounds of each freshly loaded magazine. In that you must be careful. So if you really want to maximize the potential of this gun, you need to be able to master the speed reloading or the first landing your first 5 rounds of the SMG on target. So see, even by just covering a primary weapon, you have so many details to it as well. So as I was saying earlier, you have many different slots which you can customize in any given Create a Class slot. So this game uses the Pick 13 system. Advanced Warfare's Pick 13 system was derived from Call of Duty Black Ops 2's Pick 10 system, because the Pick 10 system basically gave you 10 slots within your class for you to be able to customize it. So if I took, for example, okay wait, you know what, let me do something else. Let me just clear out all my items, and you can see here I have 0 out of 13 available. Now let's start filling them up. So you say I fill up my first slot for my primary weapon. You can see here every slot that you highlight has a category for it. So if I select the primary weapon, it highlights primary weapon. If I select the bottom one for secondary weapons, it highlights secondary weapons. So secondary weapons have got 3 categories. You have pistols, launchers and specials, but I won't go into that today. I want to go into the customization first. So I select primary weapons, and I was using the AK-12 earlier. So when I select the AK-12, any AK-12 base weapon and also its variants which I have unlocked will be displayed here. So for the AK-12, currently I have actually 3 variants of the weapon, because the AK-12G is unique for selected Advanced Warfare players, in that it is only available if you pre-ordered the game before its release in November last year. Otherwise you will not get this weapon, because it is part of the pre-order incentive that Sledgehammer Games and Activision were doing last year. So I have 3 AK-12 variants which I've unlocked. The first one is the Grenadier, which has an attached grenade launcher for its underbarrel attachment. And then I have the AK-12 hair trigger, which has -1 accuracy for +1 fire rate, which means that this thing fires like a beast. It's very powerful. And I have the AK-12 Wrecker. It says -2 accuracy for +2 handling. So I unlocked this variant of the weapon by completing the weapon challenge for it. So I had to get 300 weapon kills with the AK-12 to be able to unlock this variant of the AK-12. And this is a permanent unlock. So you cannot redeem this for experience points like you can with the other supply drop based items. The minute you see something as enlisted here, enlisted, professional or elite in the item subcategory which it has, it means that it was obtained through a supply drop. So that's how you differentiate the various variations of your weapons. So I was using the hair trigger earlier. Now I can also get camouflages for my weapons by completing challenges. So far I managed to complete the unlocked challenges over here, or the unlocked camouflages over here. This means that I've gone, or I've progressed so far in completing the relevant challenges for each camo to be earned. So I was using the gold camouflage earlier, which means that I had to get 200 kills with the weapon with no attachments equipped. And if you have diamond camouflage, it means that you'll be able to complete all camo challenges for this particular weapon. And I have to say that the diamond camo for this game doesn't look as good as the camouflage in Call of Duty Black Ops 2, because the Black Ops 2 diamond camo really looked like there were diamonds studded throughout your entire weapon. For Advanced Warfare, I still don't think it's as it has that as prestigious feeling as Black Ops 2 did. I blame this partly on last gen PlayStation 3, Xbox 360 So yeah, and because they don't have the necessary graphical processing power which the next generation consoles like the PlayStation 4, the Xbox One, or even the PC Master Race can afford. I'm happy to say that I am part of the PC Master Race. Okay, so I was using the gold camouflage earlier, and this is how the gold skin weapon looks like. I say this looks a lot better than the diamond camo, of course, because it highlights only certain areas of the weapon, and it does not go fully up to the weapon stock, which is the part of the weapon which is facing inwards towards my shoulder. So yeah, this camouflage looks a lot better. And I also had the foregrip attached to this weapon, and if you have a foregrip, it reduces your recoil. The vertical recoil for the weapon is reduced, and it boosts your accuracy by 2. So let's equip the foregrip, and you can see that the weapon's appearance has now slightly changed because my character is holding the front of the weapon in a vertical style. This means that the foregrip has been attached. And you can also tell because now you have taken up 2 slots in your PIC 13 system. And it's also worth noting that slapping on camouflages onto your weapons do not take up a slot in your PIC 13 system. Haha! You guys learned something else new today. And after doing this, we now have 2 slots taken up from our PIC 13 system, or for this class. And if you select a sidearm, we'll now have another slot taken up because it's filling up this secondary weapon slot right here. You can also have attachments for this weapon for secondary weapons, and I generally tend not to use secondary weapons because it allows me to free up this slot and take more perks, more score streaks. It allows me to take an EXO ability. I can even take EXO launchers, which include a variety of grenades and equipment you can use. Like for example, I love using the Semtex because it is basically a frag grenade but with a sticky property, so you can stick to surfaces and also stick onto enemies. And this is the main reason I like Semtex. So let's go ahead and take 2 Semtex grenades, and it's taken up another 2 more slots in our pick 13 system, so we now have 9 more slots left. And you'll notice this spade icon over here, and what this spade means is that you can use something called wildcards. Wildcards were introduced in Black Ops 2, and they allowed you to modify your class loadout in various game-changing ways, if you like. So you can see all the wildcards which we have unlocked right here, and I have the secondary gunfighter wildcard grayed out because I do not have a secondary weapon in my class slot right now, so that's why it's grayed out. But the others you can have, for example, overkill, so you can take a primary weapon in your secondary slot. So let's see what this does. If I equip this wildcard, I take up another slot in my pick 13 slot, and I can equip a primary weapon in my secondary weapon slot. So let's, for example, go ahead and equip a shotgun. So attack 19 uppercut and go into the armory. I can see now that I have as my secondary weapon a shotgun. However, if I remove this and if I go into the armory, normally I will just have my combat knife. Every class will have the combat knife equipped to it if you do not have a primary weapon, or if you do not have a secondary weapon, or both. So you always have the combat knife as your default primary weapon if you do not have any weapon equipped in either the primary or secondary weapon slots. Now let's talk about some of the other wildcards. So you have perk 1 greed, perk 2 greed, perk 3 greed, which allow you to take extra perk 1 through 2 or 3 perks in your slots. Hence you see the spades here. And you also have tactician, so you can take a exo ability in your exo launcher slot. So what this means is that instead of having 2 Semtex grenades, I now can take another ability. So let's say I take cloak, for example, so I can conceal myself for a short time. And I also take overclock, which allows me to move slightly faster than usual. And what happens is, you can see at the bottom right of my screen next to my ammo counter, I have 2 exo abilities that I unlock. So I can use cloak. Sorry about that. And I can use a faster movement speed as well. So overclock allows you to gain a temporary boost to speed. Very useful for fast-paced game modes and also for charging into battles with a shotgun or submachine gun. So that's what tactician does. Grenade bombardier lets you take exo launcher ability in your exo ability slot. So you'll be able to take an additional launcher-based projectile or weapon. You can even take an equipment like a tracking drone or the explosive drone or spike drone if you like. So tracking drone is a highly disorienting piece of equipment because it follows the enemies that it tags around, and it keeps painting them with a annoying beam of light. It's harmless, but it can be particularly distracting and blinding at times because it's always in your face. So what you can do is I can take 1 frag grenade, and I can also take Semtex grenades alongside the frag that I've taken. That's if I use bombardier. Or I can use streaker. So this allows me to take 4 score streaks. So let's say for example I take the UAV, orbital care package, I take system hack, and I can also take another, like say the Goliath, which I featured in one of my other videos which I did before. So with streaker I can take 4 score streaks and take instead of the usual 3. See what happens when I clear the slot. You can see that I have a spade marked here, so usually you can only take 3 score streaks per default class setup. And that covers the wildcards. So you can take 1 primary weapon. By default you can take 1 primary weapon, 1 secondary weapon, 2 attachments for your primary by default, 1 by default for your secondary, and you can take by default 1 of each perk from each perk, 1, 2 or 3 class slots, 1 exo ability, and 3 score streaks. So if I take an exo ability, 2 Semtex grenades, 1 foregrip and 1 primary weapon, I've taken up 5 slots from my 13 slots that I have. So we have another 8 slots left. So what do we do with this? Well, first thing you do is go into your perk 1 and you take your first perk. If you like to move around the map very quickly, take lightweight. If you want to stay invisible to UAVs, which are your primary means of acquiring the radar or sight on your enemies, then you should take a low profile because it makes you immune to or invisible to UAVs, tracking rounds, and also exo ping. If you hate getting blown up all the time and want to reduce the damage done to you by subtext or frag grenades, use flak jacket because you'll be able to take less explosive damage, and you can cancel cooked frag grenades with a weapon switch, and when you throw back enemy frags which they have launched at you, or even if you accidentally launched your own frag too close to you, you can pick it up and throw it back as well. It resets the fuse from when you actually prime the fragmentation grenade when you throw it back at the enemy or throw it away from you. If you like using your exo abilities a lot, use overcharged. It gives you increased exo battery life, and whenever you do the ground stomp or ground slam, you'll be able to also concuss nearby enemies with your slams, which means that they'll be disoriented. So what I do is I usually take low profile, and for perk 2 you have another 5 more perks, so you can use peripherals if you want to have your map awareness increased. Blind Eye is a useful perk because you'll practically be invisible to tracking drones, explosive drones, XS-1 Vulcans, XS-1 Goliaths, Paladin gunships won't see you, Warbirds can't see you. A lot of the score streaks will not be able to see you once you have Blind Eye equipped. Very handy for usage in objective-based game modes because players like to use static defenses like the sentry guns to defend objectives, so use Blind Eye to get up close and destroy them. And for perk 3 you have another 5 more. You have Hardwired. This is extremely useful and I highly recommend this perk because you'll be immune to system hack, any EMP grenades, nanoswarms from missile strikes, stun grenades, scramblers used by UAVs. So what this does is it cancels out the effects of any disorienting equipment or score streaks or even weapons, because EMP grenades are launcher based weapon or equipment, so it cancels them out. Usually what happens is when an EMP hits you, your exosuit will get scrambled or shut down for a while and it'll have a small cooldown before your exo is rebooted, which means that you cannot do any exo dodging or exo movement or any maneuvers. Toughness is your ability to take more hits without having your gun go up vertically and distort your aim. It's flinch less when you're shot, but then again be careful because in this game usually it takes 3 or 4 shots to kill a person, so having toughness on does not guarantee your survival, but it helps you to stay on target for slightly longer. Blast Suppressor is another useful stealthy class-based gameplay perk which you can take, because whenever you're doing any exo moves, any dodging, any slams, any boosting, you will be invisible on the minimap when using this perk. If you're using Scavenger, you will be able to resupply your ammunition from enemies when you kill them, and you also start with almost full magazine capacity when you spawn to the match. This is a highly recommended perk if you keep on running out of ammunition, as well as useful for classes with assault rifles or submachine guns, since they consume quite a lot of ammo when you're in gunfights. And finally we have Hardline. Hardline decreases the score streak requirement by 100 for you to earn your score streaks. So for example, if I have a UAV and like it's mentioned the streak cost is 400, if I have Hardline I'll instead have to only earn 300 score to get the score streak. And of course you have modules for your score streaks. So for the UAV you have 8 modules. I tend to run with support because whenever I do die, because eventually it's inevitable that you will die in this game in gunfights, so you'll be able to earn points toward the score streak through death, which means that it will not reset your score streak requirement when you die. So it's very useful to have this, but it adds a 300 more cost to your score streak module cost. And I also use extra assist points because I will get extra points whenever I have my UAV active and my allies get active kills. I also benefit from this score streak module whenever I put it up. And I also use speed so that I will be able to refresh my minimap or my radar on the top left corner in game faster. So I will be able to track my enemy's movements with slightly better precision. So we have one score streak, we have one weapon, one attachment, two Semtex, one extra ability, one perk 2 and one perk 1, and now we are sitting at 8 in our pick 13 slots. We've used up 8 so far. Take one perk 3, so I'll go for hardwired because players nowadays tend to be using an increasing amount of system hacks since they're getting a lot smarter. So I will take perk 3 greed, which will allow me to use scavenger because I do not really need blast suppressor since I'm not heavily reliant on being too invisible around the map nowadays. Can fairly get in and out of firefights relatively easily. So I use scavenger because it allows me to resupply ammo, especially for assault rifles, because your primary base magazine starting size is 30 rounds in your primary clip, and those run out fairly quickly. So using scavenger allows me to resupply ammunition whenever I kill anyone. And of course I take another score streak, so I get the care package. And care package allows you to call in a, let's see the description, call in a package from Orbit which has a random score streak and which also has a chance of being a map streak. Now some score streaks in this game which you are able to earn via care package also have unique map-based score streaks. So like for example, in my, I believe it was my gameplay video with the Goliath which I debuted, you have access to walker tanks on the map called Comeback, and it's set in downtown Lagos. So what happens is you have two huge tanks armed with rocket mounted turrets, and they fire rocket propelled grenades down onto the battlefield in the map, which are actually guided, and they seek your enemies out and kill them off. But you have to be careful because this score streak can actually kill you as well. So if you're actually having a kill streak or you have a string of kills without dying, the minute you get killed by your own score streak, you reset your kill streak. So you have to be careful about that. And there are a few other maps which have map-based score streaks as well. For example, Riot, which is another map I debuted in one of my other gameplay videos. It's a prison in Iraq, and you have the map-based score streak which allows you to track enemy players. It's called the inmate tracking system, or as sometimes the AI will say, riot suppression system. So you can actually track enemies' movements. Enemies who are not using blind eye, like I mentioned earlier for perk 2, which makes it invisible to score streaks, and also map-based score streaks, will definitely be caught inside of these things. So for care package, I will take another 3 modules. I will take support, I will take double tap, which allows me to change the contents of the care package, since usually you might not get the score streak that you want out of your care package when it drops. Taking this module for it will allow you to re-roll it, and you might get a better one than you originally got. And the trap, which allows me to cause it to explode if enemy players decide to try and steal my care package. Another very sneaky and handy module, useful for trolling players, to put it mildly. So there you have it. I now have used up 12 out of 13 slots for my pick 13 loadout for one custom slot. And if I had another attachment, I will definitely equip it in my next weapon attachment slot to fill out all my 13 slots. So there you guys have it. This was just a brief overview of the pick 13 class system which is used in Call of Duty Advanced Warfare. It might sound a bit too much at first. Once you get used to it, it actually becomes a very good exercise, guys. So I highly recommend anyone who wants to get into first-person shooters to try checking this out, because it is a very good alternative to actually playing Counter-Strike, or if you're into Blackshot or any of the other shooters out in the market right now. Battlefield. So you should give this game a try, because the amount of things you can do within it is fantastic, and the campaign for this game is also another real groundbreaking performance. It features, of course, Kevin Spacey from House of Cards for the Netflix original series, those of you who are interested. So I highly recommend that you guys check it out. And this concludes my Create a Class feature video, which I wanted to bring to you guys today. Thank you so much for tuning in, and stay tuned for the next video where I will be debuting the other exciting features of the game. So peace out, guys, and thank you for watching.